Norfolk. Well, good day, everyone. You have here Marcy Venezia of GleeWorks Holistic Coaching and Thomas, and your last.
Just start over from the beginning.
Okay. You know what? It doesn't allow me to pause and record. Let me stop here again. Okay.
What do you mean? It doesn't? It's recording now, so we're good.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start with sharing the screen. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our conversation about strategic planning. This section is called Smart Business Leaders Start with the End in Mind. And we have here Thomas Bruckbauer from the Growth Coach of Metro West and Marcy Venezia of GleeWorks Holistic Coaching. Thomas, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, your specialization, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi, good morning or good afternoon, whatever your time is, everybody. My name is Thomas Bruckbauer, and I'm a business coach. My company is called the Growth Coach of Metro West. I help businesses and organizations to think more strategic, prioritize what's important, and literally focus on the 20% of the work that usually creates the 80% of results. Think about the business coach like a personal trainer. I'm here to guide you and provide accountability so you and your business can be your best. Everyone can use a coach. People like Simone Biles, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, and even the Jeff Bezos and the Tim Cooks of this world, they all have coaches. The way I work is I always develop a very personalized plans for individuals or groups and focus on behavioral change and learning over time. Change takes time and repeated efforts. And this is what I provide. This is what a coach provides. I basically help you grow your own wings so you can fly. That's what I do.
Oh, wonderful. So I'm Marcy Venezia. I own GleeWorks Holistic Coaching. I am also a practical strategic planning coach. I have an individualized plan. It's very different from Thomas's, and that's why we're working together, because we've come to understand that even though we are both coaches, we both work on practical strategic planning, that we may approach each thing differently. I use a mind, body, and spirit approach. That means that I look at the roadblocks, the mindset that might be limiting somebody from taking the next step. Because I have a lot of background in being a serial entrepreneur and I have an MBA, I also can give practical and objective advice about how to actually grow your business. And I think that's one of the things that both Thomas and I do, because we have a lot of business experience and we can have an objective view about your business. We can offer and show you some things that you might not have noticed or considered. And Thomas, you're so right. We all need a coach. So let's get started. So the first question is, when and how, with a business, when should we start a business think about strategic planning or exit planning?
Well, it might sound strange, but I would say you should think about the end before you even start. You want to know where you're going, because knowing how you want to end your business, and at the end of the day, everybody is going to end their business one day. The only question is how, but there is no way out. So the sooner you know, the sooner you get your mind wrapped around this, the better it is, because it influences everything. It influences your strategic plans. It influences what customers you approach, how you deal with your customers, your financial plans, and also functional plans. So given that, what do you think, Marcy? How long before the exit should somebody really dig down and get these things implemented?
So I'll tell you a funny, not a funny story, but a poignant story. I had a Launch Your Business series last fall, and one of the people that joined that series wanted to have a store with all healthy foods, and he wanted to have products that he made and sold. And so we started talking about this. He was all ready to make a commitment, sign a lease for $2,000 a month for this area that he thought was perfect for his store. When we began to talk, I said, one of the questions I asked, and it was just a simple question. It was, where do you want to be at the end of the time? What's your exit? And he said, well, I want to be a distributor. And I said, so then you don't even need to have this store. When we talked about his plans for the store, he didn't have the people that were going to put things in the store lined up. He didn't have plans for the renovation. He didn't have the products and everything else. So because we started with the end in mind, he just saved himself thousands and thousands of dollars. He would have gone bankrupt before he had started his store. And so there's a perfect example of how important the exit plan is in the beginning. You were talking a little bit about, what's the value of an exit plan? It does three basic things. It helps you prune out things that you're doing and prioritize those things that help you reach that goal. Number two, it helps you communicate better with your employees and your customers. And number three, it helps you anticipate roadblocks in the future. So really, really important. Not a hard thing to do, to have that vision.
Absolutely right. And there's so much involved. For instance, you brought up that experience with somebody who wanted to be a distributor. I worked with lots of distributors in my life, and clear documentation, a clear expectation of roles is so important. And you need to set up an organizational structure in order to support that. You cannot just say, I want to be a distributor. You can try, you will fail. It's that simple. So putting all this stuff in place is essential. It's part of your DNA of your business. You need to know where that is going to lead. So since we all know that, and it has been well documented, there's a lot of people that talk about that. How many people do have an exit strategy, or how many people don't have one?
Well, not surprising. 84% of businesses do not have an exit plan. And of the people that do, I mean a strategic plan. So of the 84% do not have a strategic plan. And of the remainder, the roughly 15%, 95% of them have their project plan on the shelf. So I think Eisenhower said, famous quote, plans are nothing, planning is everything. The important part of a strategic plan is that it's practical, that it's part of your culture, and it's embedded in your daily decision making.
Right. I mean, absolutely. I always use that Eisenhower quote. There are similar quotes, but it's absolutely essential to understand that. Another way to think about that, there is this often attribute to Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland, which is not an exact quote, but I think it gets the idea pretty good. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Mm-hmm. So think about that, and think about that in the context of preparing for a vacation, right? You want to know where you go. If you do a Alaskan cruise, it's very different than doing a cruise in the Caribbean or going on a camping trip on all Europe city vacation. Mm-hmm. You need to prepare differently. You need to have different tools, different clothes. You go to the Caribbean, you pack a lot of bathing suits. You go to Alaska, you better have something really warm because it's cold out there. So you gotta figure this out before you start. And then having that figured out is not the only thing that's important. Then of course you have to get and buy the tickets. You have to book the hotels, right? You have to actually do the walking on the ground. Otherwise you won't be seeing anything. That's where this big idea, where do we want to go? What's my strategy? And then what is the implementation that really gets us there? Another good example is connecting back to that Eisenhower quote. You planned all your vacation, all of a sudden your plan gets rerouted. That doesn't mean you go somewhere else on vacation. It just means you try to figure out how to get to the destination you originally planned for, right?
Ah, you're
This is
tweaking the
where,
plan.
right, you find another plan. So, but you need to know where you want to go. Otherwise, any road will get you there, right? So it is important. And
Yeah,
that's
you
why we
can
talk
get,
about that exit strategy. So it shapes a lot of things: communication, marketing, operations, right? We talked about maybe the need of having documentation ready.
Mhm.
And I think you also wanted to talk a little about staffing and succession planning, Marcy,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
also something that
I,
is important.
yeah, it's so important. And if you think about it, we often hire a travel agent to help us plan our vacations. They know the destinations and those sort of things. I love that analogy. And so really, we're as coaches, we're travel planners, aren't we?
To some extent, yes, absolutely. We know what's out there. We've seen, I mean, I always try to say, I made all the mistakes that I'd like help you to avoid.
Yeah, that's
And that's what coaches do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I forgot what your question was. Sorry.
Staffing, succession planning,
Yeah,
why
so
that is
succession,
impacted.
yeah, succession planning. So, a lot of people think that when you're doing an exit plan, you're saying either I'm selling it or I'm keeping it. And a lot of people, they love their work. They've been there for 30, 40 years. They're just doing their job. And their idea of an exit plan is to just let it just take less and less business. But what they're doing is they're not kind of taking a bigger picture, and they don't have the understanding about what they've built in their company. For instance, they've built processes and procedures that have been successful. They have a client base which loves the work that they've done and has benefited. And they have a presence in the community. So, in some ways, those people that are getting ready to retire, they need to think about the value that they've brought their community and think more in a bigger way there. It's not just, wasn't just a job for them. It was a vocation, and it was a way of bettering the community. And so with 3 to 5 years of planning prior to an exit, you can take a look at the value that you've built over time. That goes it from being sellable, which you might just close it up and leave all that money on the table, or leave that goodwill, or leave that benefit to the community, just let it die. But you could also package it and put your business together so that you can walk away and you can be more choosy about the work that you take on. Just as in parenting, your job as a parent is to make yourself obsolete, to train your kids to be completely independent of you. That doesn't mean you never see them. It means that you get to enjoy them rather to work, to be working hard.
Since you mentioned the parenting, I actually ran into business owners that build a business. It was their legacy. They put their life's work on it, and they expected their family, their kids to take over, which would be wonderful. I mean, if you can inherit, if you can stay in the community, you can continue that business. My first question is always, do your children know about this? I literally ran into people that had all these great ideas, but they sort of never successfully communicated that to the rest of their family. Or sometimes even employees. Employees can take over businesses too. But you gotta prepare them. You gotta communicate this. You gotta bring them up, because at the end of the day, you don't want to transfer a job, right? Entrepreneurs build opportunities. They build businesses. You want to transfer a business, not a job. And in order to make a business, you have to put the pieces in plan. So do we have any idea about why business owners just don't have an exit plan?
Yes,
Because there's so many that don't, right? I mean, why don't they do this?
You know what? I think a lot of times they get caught in the weeds. There's actually the Eisenhower matrix, it's a square, and people get caught in the urgent but not important category. They think, I don't have enough time to think about an exit strategy. And an exit strategy isn't a long process that you go and sequester yourself in a resort and think about this. No, it's about building in an exit plan, thinking strategically for, maybe an hour every other week to kind of say, how am I doing on my exit plan? That's really what it is. I don't see it, and I think people just don't have that body of knowledge. It's just not part of what we tend to be more immediate, especially the now generation. What do you think?
No, exactly. I mean, some people just don't want to see that because it makes them feel awkward to think about ends, right? That's not what we're accustomed to do, but that's where people like you and I come in and point out this, as I said early, one day you will be without your business.
Right.
So you have to figure out how that happens. If you want to make it successful, if you want to make this your legacy, you can start early. And it's not a PhD thesis, right? It takes some time, takes a good conversation, it takes some hard thinking, possibly with a couple of other people that might be involved, but everyone can figure that out. And the beauty of this, then, it's similar to that vacation planning. Once you figure that out, everything else aligns. I am a big fan of aligning goals, right? You want to, in generally, even though there's roadblocks, there's potholes, but you want to have the general direction right.
Yeah.
And you avoid the potholes, you swerve around, all that is good, but the general direction, it just helps that you have the warm clothing when you go to Alaska, right? So you want to have that in place.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that historically, since people have devoted their entire life to this business, if they just leave, they're like left with this void, and it can be very depressing for business owners. So I think by looking at your exit plan now and beginning to develop interests outside of your business is really, really important. So that 3 to 5 years before you actually exit also includes looking at what other things you want to do, spending time with grandkids, traveling to different places. These are all things that you need to think about and plan for, just like you're planning the shifting of your business to other hands. Kind of thing.
Exactly. We are business owners ourselves. Businesses are our lives. And that I take that literally. They are our lives. That means they have to be integrated in our lives. They're not independent. They're one thing. And it doesn't help to be successful in business and forget about the rest of your life. Yeah. So you have to put these pieces together. And again, this is what I do with my clients. I work with them.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, give us an idea of how you start working with your clients and how you work with them to put together a practical strategic plan or exit planning.
So I usually have a session or two, or sometimes even 3, where we just sit together and I ask questions, similar to the questions I asked you here today, right? What is your plan? What is your exit strategy? What do you want to have? And I'm going to be really harsh here, but that's one of my exercises. What do you want your tombstone to look like? What is your legacy going to be? What do you want to leave? What should other people think of you? And from there on, we then translate that into business. We look at where we are. Where is it that you really are? You have to take a real hard look in the mirror and figure out where you are at. And then we develop the step where we want to be. As I said in the last session, it's a lot about building bridges from here to there. And we look at all aspects of the business that are involved, the strategic plan. We focus also on marketing, on selling, on people management. We mentioned earlier, right? If you have succession in mind, you have to develop the people. So what do you do next month for that person or the group of people you have in mind? So we work through these items and we set specific measurable goals and make sure that happens. And we do this step by step. It might sound intimidating at first, but I believe in the power of incremental change, small steps. That's why I usually use a planning cycle of about 3 months. We figure out the big goal. We use a 3 months planning cycle, and then we work towards the goals of 3 months. And that also has to do with behavioral psychology. You cannot change from today to tomorrow. You need to change in small steps. The change needs to settle. It needs to become a habit. And once we identify that this now is a habit, we tackle the next thing. So we don't try to overwhelm anybody with this kind of process. It's step by step. And the important thing, though, is it's continuous. You start with the first step and you continue stepping. You don't stop. There is no parking here. You go onto that journey. You go into your vacation to make sure you end up where you want to be.
Right. Right. So, GlueWorks works a little bit differently. We work on since we're working on a mind, body, spirit, we start with a vision, and that has a physiological reciprocal kind of a relationship. So we'll use visualization, some meditation, and then clarifying goals, just like you're doing, and then working through a plan and sequence of steps and changes in behavior or thinking to reach those goals. I think one of the things that has to happen, and we do this with GlueWorks, is that there's a cultural shift. You know, if you've been the leader and everybody looks to you for that information, having that cultural shift so that information is distributed to people that are other leaders in the business. That's also part of it. I think no matter who you work with, whether it's you, Thomas, or me, you're going to get good practical strategic planning, exercises, and visioning that's going to help you clarify your communication, your goals, and help you anticipate roadblocks. I think that's something that both of us will offer you as a potential client. So,
right. And to keep in mind, coaches we always try to, we are there. We're not consultants that come in, leave you a piece of paper and walk out, right? Think about the coach, think about your fitness trainer or the coach that Tom Brady has, right? This is an ongoing relationship because we only benefit if you succeed.
Right. That's
right?
Absolutely.
That's what we do.
Succeed.
So, we are your partner in that. We are confident. We are a springboard for ideas that you may not be able to communicate to somebody else.
Yeah. And, and I think in both cases, we have experience in exiting and in helping other companies put together practical strategic plans and use that. That's a resource for people who don't have an exit plan or don't have a practical strategic plan. Well, this was really fun, Thomas. And so we, thinking about a practical strategic plan and an exit plan is really an important part of being a business owner and a business leader. You could be within an organization and have a department. The same principles apply.
Absolutely. I did the same thing. I wanted to transition out of a role in one of my previous lives in the corporate world, right? And I prepared that diligently. I acquired additional education. I prepared a successor for my role because I was in a very customer-facing position. Our company was well known for their customer service. So even in these environments, you can plan that because when I left, I wanted to make sure that all our customers are in the best hands they can possibly be. So the same principles apply. So this doesn't only apply for business owners. It applies to people at any management level or people just thinking about their personal careers.
So thank you everyone for staying to the end. We hope that this was beneficial for you. You learned a lot, and certainly reach out to either one of us if you have questions or to interview us. We would love to help you and be part of your journey. This is Marcy Venezia and Thomas Bruckbauer wishing you a wonderful day and success in your business.
Yeah, and don't forget to take either a screenshot or stop the recording here right now. So we have our contact information on the screen. And we'd love to hear from you. Again, every initial contact, of course, it's a consultation. We'll figure out, we work on very specialized, personalized proposals. So there is no surprises.
Right. Yep. Consultation is free. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Marcy. That was very fun. And I love to talk about these things because I believe that a lot of these problems can be solved relatively easily if you just put your mind on it and get started.
Yep.